What's up? I figured it's a little later in October. We'll do spooky uh, updates or whatever. So there won't be any lights for this one. And I also think I'm gonna do for a little while Tuesdays only. Um, I don't know why, but I was just like, Tuesdays gives me the weekend to kind of think. And um, there's been a pretty big I will say influx of things hitting my radar about Dungeons and Dragons. Um, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since second edition, to where they had Thaco to hit armor class 0. I still don't understand that. The way that I was always into the characters and whatnot, but when it came to the combat, I was like, I don't know how to math this way. So I would just roll and just ask the DM, did I hit? What did you roll? This. And what do you have? This. Because, like, -4, -5 was, I think, the farthest down you could get. And it still just does not make sense to me. And I remember when 3 came out, that really just kind of boosted my love for the game again, simply because now I can understand every aspect of it, not just trying to come up with things to do or people to talk to or how to say this or how to say that. Um, I really got into it then because I can understand. Okay, armor class 20 used to be dog shit. Well, now it's incredible because you need to have like a +4 to hit, so you have to roll a 16 on a d20 or higher to hit the AC 20. I'm going, okay, it makes sense now. It's easier to math. It makes more sense. And at the same time, they started adding in like a just laundry list of skills and the amount of things that you would have to do, and this little nuance of doing that, and this little nuance of doing this, and this little nuance of doing that. Like it became kind of overbearing. And then there was the pretty much overall universally hated fourth edition. um, I remember I thumbed through some of 3.5, but I don't think I got too much into it. I think I got some, um, but I kind of cherry picked and said, okay, this makes sense, or I like this, or I don't like how this got the nerfs, so we'll still use this. Because I've always felt your players need to have a sense of feeling powerful, or at least having a chance in a fight. Um, Recently, I was playing with Kick and Kason and Burrito, and had Burrito go ahead and be like, you said you wanted to play. Do you want to take a turn at DMing? And I could be right here to kind of help guide you with everything. I got my shit in the car. We'll go play. Um, Took about 20 minutes or so to make a character. Um, and while I'm making my character, he's got my little dungeon book. It's like a random 120 dungeons. So um, I'll toot my own horn for a little bit, but I could just look at the map and see some of the things on there, and I'll get an idea for what to do. Because a little over a month ago, um, I said we would do like a Kick family D&D thing that I would DM, and told everyone just play whatever the hell you want to play, and even got Cappy involved, which is Kason's boyfriend, husband, fiance. Um, and uh, I saw this room and it had 12 pillars in it. And I just kind of went, I always take immense pride on starting campaigns differently every single time that I start them. I've had some to where you were a squire for a gladiatorial arena, to where you had a gladiator that you were following that was part of your class. So you would go out there and you'd be a level 1, but I'd throw in challenge rating 3s. But there was environments in there to where there was like an acid pool, or there were high level walls. Um, traps, snare traps, and snare traps. Like I had everything there that if you just used the environment, you could easily get through it. And we got you through the first 4 levels. So I was like, first 4 levels are just kind of, let's just run past this, do all of this combat, and then we'll jump into more of the roleplay stuff afterwards. I've had some to where you've started off in the king's throne room, and you had the local inquisitor or whatever the hell you want to call him. I'm drawing a blank on the name right now, or the title, I should say. And he was saying that the royal family's gone. There was no sign of struggle. There was no blood on the floor. There was no missing things. There was no torn clothes. No nothing left behind. Just some small clues. And then they followed those clues. And that was the one where the party had completely forgot what they were doing and where they were going and what they were going for. So I just kept nudging them this way, and they'd veer, and I'd nudge, 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 and I just kept going until eventually got to the room to where I said there was 6 tall ice pillars, about 7 feet tall and about 3 feet wide by 3 feet thick. And there's just 7 of them. The room is just really cold. The spellcaster in front of you is taunting you, and the barbarian ran in, and this was back when cleave was something that you could pick up as a feat pretty early on, and he hit one of the minions and then cleaved through and hit one of the ice pillars. That ice pillar top was severed and fell, shattered. And I said, and you see the frozen white, blue-skinned face of the prince. And they went, oh, shit, that's what we're doing. And I went, come on, man. Like, I take a lot of time to try and create these things, and you just didn't give a damn. And so that kind of bugged me. But anyway, I was letting Burrito know, don't get too heavily involved in trying to come up with too many things, because you have no idea where things are going to go. The last time I played D&D as a player, and the last time I played as a player over an online setting, I think I was playing a cleric, and I was perfectly fine playing a cleric. And I went in to this room and trying to help out at it. It was level 1. I don't want to use a whole lot of level 1 spells. I usually want to try and keep them for healing. And I critically missed taking a swing at an enemy standing next to the NPC that we were going for. And the DM decided that I hit the NPC and knocked him into the burning brazier in front of him, effectively killing him, and then thus ending the campaign. And I just kind of went, why the hell would you do that? Like, you could have had his hands bound behind him and his face be horribly burned and mangled to where he couldn't speak, but he could write. And we need him to write something. So we would have to sit there and try and heal his wounds as much as possible. Not to mention I'm a damn cleric. But he would just like, and my campaign's ruined. And I guess he just wanted someone to yell at. And I went, well, you create the overall events. You create the consequences to critical fails. And trust me, as a DM, I live for critical fails. Just like the party lives for criticals. So if you have a situation to where you say that your targeted NPC that is the linchpin for everything is put in mortal danger to where there's a sense of urgency, that's a good thing. But actually having them be offed with no other way to go about doing it is a bad thing. That is bad writing. That is bad direction and everything on the DM's part. Which is why I've always said the utmost important thing that you need in a D&D game is a good DM. And if you know me personally, you know I don't brag about much of anything. A lot of self-deprecating things go on in my head. But one thing I do take pretty immense pride in is my ability to do a good Dungeons and Dragons game. And really kind of give things some meanings, some events some meanings. And most recent example, Friday with the main group, it was a situation to where 2 weeks ago they had just taken out the small camp, and there was a medium-sized camp and then a larger, pretty much main camp in these woods, pretty much in their backyard. And they had taken out the small camp, and they're knocking down the fences and walls and everything, like where you're not going to come back here no matter what happens. We're taking all this down. And so this past week, or just a couple days ago, because I'm recording this on Monday, so just about 3 days ago, they pretty much said, can you earmuff it? I was like, I'll just leave, just let me know. And I go upstairs for about 20 minutes before they go, all right, we're good. And I was on the phone at the time, finished on my phone call, went downstairs, and we proceeded to play. And they had this whole big old plan, and the paladin put on a hat of disguise, was taught how to use it, grabbed one of the bodies from the scouts that they took, and was dragging it towards the main camp and saying, help, help, the camp's under attack. Well, I don't really know what they were thinking, but I said, okay. They pulled him in, started tending to the wounds that he had on him, and took the other guy, was tending to his wounds. He's like, there's no time, you gotta go. And I guess he was thinking of just emptying the entire camp. For what purpose, I don't know. But I went ahead and I made the entire camp out of the things that I had available. And there's a D&D, let me see, monster box. I think that's what it's called. So yeah, it's a D&D campaign case, creatures. And then there's also one for, I think, environments. Really good price right now. I paid ridiculously for it when I got it. So if you're looking at getting it, a little over $20 right now. Terrain's a little over about almost 35. Works wonders. Comes with little stickers, if you will, that you could put on them. There's 3 different sizes: small, medium, large, etc. But yeah, had a ton of those out there. Had the walls, had the gates, had the fires, had the tents, and I was like, okay, they have this guy dressed exactly like someone that would potentially be at the medium camp, and it went small, medium, large, and it was a patrol that went through all 3 of them. Well, they got the patrol so that way they wouldn't have anyone coming up behind them. And so since it was of such urgency, it was like, there's a ton of them out there. Some of them went, I think about 12. I want to say it was about 50 to 60 guys in this camp. And then brought the paladin before the head of those bandits that were part of the whole big thing of, you need to save some cows. And so what ended up happening was, he's like, oh shit, I wasn't thinking I would be here. I was thinking that everybody would just rush past me and leave the camp. No, why would you think that? So in order to kind of tie a couple little things together from the beginning, I had said that there was sightings of wyverns. Well, I think they forgot that part, because that guy did actually have 2 wyverns, and grabbed them and probably about, I think it was 20 others, and left to go towards the south camp. And then they're talking about finding ways to go about it and whatnot. And all of a sudden the paladin goes, I take off. I'm on the wyvern. I burn out. And the BBEG, if you will, the big bad end guy, comes up behind, and he's lower and farther behind. So the paladin pretty much goes and leaps. I went, all right. Let's roll an athletics check, see how effective you are. He crit. It's like, okay. And the BBEG had a fly spell active. Wyvern was coming up behind him. And I said, he crit. So again, with crit misses or crits, I kind of go, well, you have to have some type of something in there to give them a sense of this was kind of a big deal. Most often I'll have, if you roll a 1 when you're attacking something, I'll say, well, what ended up happening is your weapon goes flying, and it's about 30 feet away right now. Like, son of a bitch. Like, yep, have spares, because you might roll 1s and you might need them. So with this one, it was a crit to do the athletics check. I won a dirty 20. It was a nat 20. Like, all right. Well, concentration for the fly spell is required, and it's a verbal, somatic, and material component spell. So I basically said that he grabs this dude, hits him, and just puts his hands around his throat, and I roll a concentration check, and he failed, so they start plummeting. I said, do a strength check. So it was a strength check for the paladin, strength check for the BBEG. Roll, paladin gets higher, so he ends up finding a way to maneuver the enemy below him. Meanwhile, the rest of the group's over in the woods just kind of waiting for this troop to go past, and what they were going to do after that, I don't know. But what ended up happening was basically made a crater in the ground that essentially destroyed and wiped out the middle camp. And I said that the impact was so loud that the group that was a little ways away heard it. So they go running towards it. The entourage that was going with them on the wyverns went out into the open thinking that it's going to be easier for him to see us out here than to try and figure out where we are in the woods. So they went out into the opening, leaving it completely empty woods for the group to catch up to the paladin. And paladin player goes, all right, well, I did tell them before I left to make sure that they get my body. So he was going in there expecting to die. And had he not rolled as well as he did, I probably would have let him go ahead and just be like, all right, well, that's the end of your character. So he even grabbed into the character sheet, was even grabbing the 4d6s to get ready to start rolling again. And it ended up getting to the point to where the way that he rolled and what he said and how he reacted with it, I played really into the religion aspect for the paladin. And the paladin and the cleric in the group all follow the same god. And then there's a blood hunter, and then my mute NPC rogue. That is really just there, just kind of for extra shit, because he really doesn't do much. He's just, oh, you need to go have something bad done. All right, send in the 0.5 PC. And he was standing there amongst a crater. The team had to come up and over and look into there, and he was kind of shrouded in a white, gold, and silver aura that just kind of let them know that something divine was taking place. And Kick interpreted it as he was pretty much like the blue representation for Obi-Wan and Yoda and Vader and shit. Like, no. He's not an apparition. He's standing there. He's like, oh, that's what I thought. I was like, no. So, the player got a hold of me. I think it was Saturday. That said that he had expected to be rolling a new character, and although he got attached to his paladin, he was perfectly okay saying goodbye to it based off of what he had done. He said, but I got to know, why did you change that? I said, you rolled. The way that you rolled dictated it. He goes, the way I rolled, sure. Like, I mean, that is what it is. I got no problems with a character dying, provided that it's part of the role play thing or whatever. But it was such a really cool scene that I went, okay. It really kind of struck a chord with everyone. And it was one of those situations that I wish could have been caught on camera or whatever, but it still was a pretty awesome situation. And it's not one that I normally do in that kind of situation. But again, you crit roll for the very beginning. Why would there not be some type of reward? And then the way that you rolled afterwards kind of stimulated the rest of this to happen. And I went, it's perfectly fine to do it this way. All that being said, I still say a DM's job is to try and kill your players, but not be really, really good at it. You don't want to try and have a situation to where, you know, they walk into a blacksmith shop and there's a guy whose skin is always of a red tone and he's always just banging away with his blacksmith hammer. And next thing you know, he just goes, "You guys smell funny." Turns into a red dragon and eats him. I'm going, that's just dumb. But for all intents and purposes, what the paladin did was 100% spot on. He was like, I'm going to sacrifice myself to just kind of see if I can end this for everybody in the town, in the area, and to try and hopefully stymie all of this bullshit that's going on. That was the end of the initial campaign or initial mission or quest or whatever that took him over 4.5 levels to complete. I remember when I was younger at DMing, I would almost kind of feel like we need to get to the next good part. And I've since learned that no, you need to kind of slow down and let this marinate, let this build. And it comes to my second point when it comes to D&D. You get out of it what you put into it. If you're just kind of then your experience is going to be really play to your character, play to your alignment, play to what the original 5th edition put out, not what the 5.5 put out, because 5.5 ruined backgrounds and just pissed me off. It's terrible now. But get a 5th edition for the backgrounds if you don't want to come up with something for it. But that being said, I would always err on the side of caution and don't make your character as a carbon copy of another character. Prime example, a couple weeks ago, one of the other campaigns I'm running decided that they're going to start all new characters. All right, what are you guys playing now? One of them said he was playing Stanley from the Stanley Parable. I said, oh, so you're just going to have people tell you what to do and you just do whatever the hell you want? He goes, no, I'm just going to be Chaos Incarnate. And I went, that's not Stanley. If you pay attention to how the game was written and the intro for it, Stanley was a very model employee. Did exactly what he was told every single time he was told it. And if he was sitting there supposed to just sit there, punch away on a keyboard and hit a button every 12 seconds, that's what he did. Stanley only goes off the rails when you take control of him. So you can't say that that's Stanley. Not only that, but having that mindset of, I'm going to play this character because of this, you pigeonhole yourself. You say that is the only way that you could play. That is the only way that things can be done. The Paladin impact, literally, was such a, I don't want to say moving event, that the Blood Hunter and my rogue, where I was like, we're going to go do the naughty stuff. We'll be back. The Blood Hunter goes, no more. I'm not going to go do any more of the torturings. I'm not going to go do any more of these just mindless killings. No more. You have that kind of power. I'll listen to what you say more often. And it was a turning point for that character. But if you had someone else that was based off of something else and you already know their entire arc, you have no room for growth. So have some flaws. The flaws are the fun part. Anyway, this was my whole long way to kind of come back to with Burrito DMing. I said, never plan too far ahead because you have no idea what will happen. And he's going through this thing and he's tearing up Post-it notes and he's writing shit on, he's sticking it on there, and he's writing something else, he's sticking that on there. And it looked like a clown barfed all over this book. And it had little pink slits of paper everywhere. And I'm just kind of went, He goes, I got a couple more things to plan. I said, honestly, you need to stop because there's no guarantee we're going to get to any of this. He's like, well, it's only on level 1. I said, there's no guarantee we're even going to get through level 1 today because it was already like 10 o'clock at night by the time we started. We go through and it's like, okay, who's playing what, who's doing what, off we go. And the first thing we fight was not 1, not 2, but 3 bugbears. And I went, are bugbears CR2s? So we would need 2 of these, 2 of us to take out 1 of them. Suffice to say, Kick had gotten his character to 6 hit points left and then was crit for 22 points of damage. I'm going, he's dead. Once you go beyond -10, you are dead. That's just it. You're dead. No two ways about it. You are dead. And then eventually I went down to -2, and I think we killed 1 of them. We might have killed 2. So it was basically 1 of them, then 1 of us, 1 of them, then 1 of us. And then Kaysen was just sitting there with her druid casting Freezing Ray over and over again and just basically making that thing kind of impossible to get to her. And eventually it ended up falling, and Kick was just kind of going, all right, well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning now, or 2 o'clock, I think, at that point. I think I'm going to go to bed. And fight finally ended, and he at least had the DM-ness, if you will, of saying, you feel that there's something under the floorboards that could help out, and it was a scroll of resurrection. So I do scroll of resurrection. Meanwhile, when I was at -2, I made all 3 of my death saving throws. So when that ended up taking place, I went, okay, you need to kind of put into your head the reason why there's challenge ratings like 1/8, 1/10, 1/4, 1/2 is because you could put more of them out there. Why bugbears are a challenge rating 1 in 5th edition and even 5.5, I have no idea. 16 AC, 27 hit points on average. The most hit points you can really start with in 5 and 5e is less than 20. I think if you can get to 20 Constitution and you play a Barbarian, you're still talking 17 hit points. You can't go higher than that. So it's a full 10 hit points higher for each one of them. So my whole thing that I was trying to go is, what did you learn? Because that I did too much. I said, but what did you learn? Said, yes, your job as a DM is to try and kill the players because you do want to impart a sense of danger. You do want to have things be impactful. Having characters fall and then survive, as long as they still want to play that character or even play that campaign, they will be cautious next time. They will be a little bit more reserved. They won't be so much just run in there. Who gives a shit? That's just how that goes. And all that being said, I had saw on TikTok there was a girl that was talking about how she's a girl. She wants to play D&D. She's talking to the DM. And she has some questions that she wants some answers to. And it was basically, is it okay if I don't play a cleric, a druid, or a paladin because I don't want to play any support classes? Is it okay that my character never gets involved in any type of relationship or feels like she has to flirt to get her way? Or is it okay that she's not going to be any type of assaulted or anything like that? And I went, Jesus. Is it really things for DMs in there? And I had a shit ton of replies. Like, yeah, this is pretty much normal. And there was some that I thought was just kind of outrageous of saying, well, that's the patriarchy for you. I'm like, shut the fuck up. That's not what that is. most of the kids that get involved with D&D are teenagers, and so they just want to bully people around because that's kind of what you do when you're a teenager. You're a dick. I still stand firm that from the ages of 13 to 23, you are going to be in the asshole stage. It can come earlier, it can extend a little bit farther, but for the most part, you are in the asshole stage. That's just how that goes. And a lot of the ones where there's like, well, that's just guys for you, or that's just misogyny, or that's the patriarchy. I'm like, grow up. No, it isn't. It's more of a lack of maturity than anything else. You just can't say, well, that's men for you. No, that's boys. I've never had a scenario like that. I always let people play however they want to play. I played with some girls that's what they wanted to play because they kind of liked having that nurturing nature of the support class because they didn't really want to do anything else when it comes to combat other than just be there to help everybody else get through it. But they were more onto the role play side and wanted to sit there and have conversations and see what information they can learn or how they can actually interact with other players and shit like that. So I let people play what they want to play, but hearing all of these stories that came from people and how just so many times these women had terrible guys to play with and just ones that were really overbearing and you will play like this and this will happen or the entire group kills you, and I'm going. So I've been reading a lot of the D&D, the r/D&D subreddits and stuff, and like, yeah, there's some that pop up from time to time in there too. I'm like, god damn. But again, it goes back to number one. You want to have fun with this game, you have to have a good DM. And what I was trying to impart on Burrito was you want to kind of plan your campaign of, okay, what is something you want them to be done by level 5? Not at level 5, but by level 5. What is something you want them to have done? Do you want them to finish their first mission? Do you want them to see a red dragon going flying over the top? Is there a ton of dragons in the area? You know, things like that. What do they see? What do they do? What are you preparing them for? What kind of dangers can you put in their mind, in the back of their mind from the beginning that could sit there and give them pause whenever they go elsewhere? My campaign, they have, there was the cult of the purple worm. They're trying to bring purple worms back to the area. That's just what they want to do. There was purple worm tunnels that they had gone into that they didn't know was purple worm tunnels. But I read up on it and found out that purple worms will rarely go back into tunnels that they themselves have created. So being in that tunnel means that you're pretty much safe. But it was enough for them to go, nope, 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 get out. And now they have it in their head. We could potentially go in there and maybe figure out where this thing went and maybe take it out. Not realizing, well, I think it's a CRC 15, 19, 15. And so they're level 4. Purple worm does could be in the area. I could bring it in later. Could bring it in the most inopportune, worst time ever. Who knows how I'm going to do this? I have ideas. Of course, I'm not going to say them on here in case any of them actually watch these videos. But yeah, I have ideas, and I don't usually do modules. I don't like modules because you usually have to read up on them ahead of time because you kind of have to have some idea what's going on. That being said, I found my old copy of this one. And one thing I will give this thing credit for helping me, I guess, remember is probably a good a word for it is I can make my own creatures. And it never dawned on me that I can make my own creatures. I've made my own items. I have quite a few. I have my own Word doc, or Google Doc, I should say, of things that I've created. And I give myself some pretty good credit on some of these. One of them is so prevalent that Kick demands it every single time we play. And I think this is the third or fourth campaign that we've played together. And he always wants this thing. Always wants this thing. And so I'm like, okay, we'll give you the hat. And it's become so entwined in the lore for our campaign that when the paladin came up one time, he made myself, Kaysen, and Kick Lego characters of our characters. And and Kick's cleric has a hat on to represent Chardrin's performance hat, which is one that I made up. I really like doing things different. I really like going against the grain for a lot of the things that I do in D&D, and I find that it helps me not only enjoy it more, but then I think it helps my players enjoy it more. So I look forward to helping Burrito and kind of understanding what's going on. I think Kaysen's 100% correct, though, is that he probably needs to be a player a little bit longer before he starts going into DMing. But I think if I can get a couple of sessions with him, or hell, I had even made the comment on Friday, that would have been the perfect time for him to sit in. And it would have. Because then I'm like, this is what I think I'm going to do. This is what I think I'm going to do. This is what I think I'm going to do. I think I'm going to do this. Okay, this just happened. So I'm going to let this play out and see where it role plays. To where I will pay attention to things that you say, just like you should pay attention to things that I say. Prime example, again, from Friday when they took out the patrol. One guy had gotten a hold of the dire wolves that my character accidentally crit failed and stabbed one of them, and the dire wolves turned on the group. So then the dire wolves were going to help out the enemy. This guy grabbed the hackles of both dire wolves and said, "Get me out of here," and pointed, and he, I think, had like 5 hit points left or something. So he's taken off towards the main camp, and then Kick casts Guiding Bolt, which, if you read Guiding Bolt, it says a bright, radiant light. Well, remember, they're in between 2 camps, so that radiant light was noticed. And then they gathered all the bodies. No one said, they said, we gather all the bodies here. No one said, I'm going there and make sure we get the guy that the wolves dragged off. Because that's important. If you say all of them here, I'm like, okay, it's all the ones that are directly in this area that are out in the open. No one said that they were going to the guy in the woods. And I'm going to be kind of a stickler for things like that, because those are details that I can use to sort of create other issues or create other problems or other obstacles that are needed to try to go by, and then make sure that the characters and the players know we have to get everybody out of here. Everybody, not everybody. Well, yeah, everybody out. So if they're trying to sit there and get all these people gone, you need to make sure that you make mention of the one that wasn't with everybody else. He's way over here. You got to point him out too. You just can't go, all these ones here, and then off you go. It can't go that way. You have to make mention of the other ones. And so whenever we were playing and Burrito was DMing, I was being very deliberately questioning of everything. Well, what about this? Okay, well, you said under the floorboards in this room. I walk into the next room, and I said, describe the room. What do I see? Like, oh, it's just regular stuff. I said, is there wooden floorboards? He said, yeah. I said, I start tearing them up. I'm looking for something else. He goes, you don't find anything. And then I kept doing that over and over and over again. He goes, will you stop doing that? I said, no, because the first time I had an interaction, I found some really cool shit, so I'm going to tear up every bit of the floorboards. Kaysen caught on. She started doing the same thing. Kit caught on, started doing the same thing. We're tearing up the floorboards. He's like, there's consequences. There's things that you have taught not only me, but the character themselves of what to expect, what can be done, what goes on. So you have to be careful on deliveries. So there's things that I'm trying to teach as we go to make sure that it's understood, you just can't go and here's a thing. Well, why? Why would someone care about a little level 1? You know, the paladin could even say, why would Helm care about a level 4? Because you're trying and you're meeting resistance from some of your party members, but you are trying to better this area along with you and the cleric. So off you go. And I think that really kind of creates a dynamic with the storyteller and the adventurers, to where you have this back and forth dynamic that you build off of each other. And that's the third important thing. You have to be able to adapt. You really want to be a good DM, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to kind of think on your feet. The more creative you are, or the more you go, ooh, this would be cool. Ooh, this would be cool. I don't think anyone from the group is going to watch this video, especially this late into it. But I had an epiphanous moment last weekend whenever I was leaving, when Burrito was DMing at 4 o'clock in the fucking morning, that I can make Horcruxes just like in Harry Potter, but they can be living things too. I might do an update once this happens, but that's going to be a little while down the line. But yeah, I really wanted to kind of have a little conversation about this, because I truly enjoy being able to have an outlet for the creative mindset that I have and what I try to do, and how to make a memorable experience, not only for the players, but myself as well. Even gone so far as I have a little notebook that I bought a while ago. And there's a decent bit of information in here, to where what I'm doing, of course, to what I'm doing is I'm creating shops in other towns that the group has already talked to. So if they want to go to another town, they could go to another town. Now, I say that because there's, I think, a dozen cities in this world that I have. They've been to 1, and they are closing in on level 5. They've been to 1. They've not gone outside of that. They've not done much of anything. And I think next session, not only with the little Halloween thing that they asked for, that they've already started, they're going to be forced to leave, and there's going to be a lot of traveling and things going on. But now they have wyverns that they can get to and from places a little bit easier. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens whenever they finally leave this starting city. And I think with all of the work that I've put into these cities, and why they are there, and who is there, and how they are run, especially considering I've just done the western half, haven't even done the eastern half yet. I think this is probably going to be the last world I create, and I'm just going to be playing campaigns in here, because I have about a good 3-4 ideas of how to start the next one, should another one be needed. But yeah, what are your D&D experiences? Are you a DM? Are you a player? Do you want a DM? Are you a DM and you want to play? I just kind of want to know what's going on, what you think, what you feel, how you feel it. And yeah, I've been wanting to talk about this stuff for a little while now, so I was like, all right, this is going to be a good time to kind of punch this in. I don't have too much more to say on it, but without getting into like some of the items and things that I've created and some of the places that I've made and shit like that. A lot of it is still ideas that are stuck in the back of my head for when the group gets there. but they're not there yet. I've pretty much got them well planned out through level 10 as far as the things that are going to happen and what's going to take place. And yeah, the little crack in the door frame that they had for the last few months, getting up to almost level 5, that door's about to be kicked wide open and probably off the hinges. And I can't wait. I think it's going to be amazing. Speaking of amazing, y'all have an amazing time. Be safe, be kind, and chat with you soon. See ya.